This week, I want to address the topic, how do I heal if I react to everything? And if you're watching this call live or you're watching the call at a later date, there are many people out there, and you might be one of them, that can't take a supplement or a medication because everything causes a reaction. So where someone might be able to take a multivitamin, you can't. Or someone takes fish oil, you can't. Or someone takes aspirin, you can't. So if you're the person in the crowd that doesn't do well with supplements or medications, you might not be helped by most doctors, because most doctors you're going to see, their tools, some of the very common tools they use are medications and or supplements. And so that if they're leaning a high percentage of their care is based on those things, then you may not get the benefit you need because you can't deal with those things. So I would consider you a fragile patient, and not fragile from a mentality standpoint, but just from a physiology standpoint. Clearly, if you're reacting to a supplement that most of the population takes no problem, then your physiology is more fragile than that person's, or than the general population's. And I had a mentor once that taught me a line that I'll never forget, that I use all the time. And that line is, there's no failure, only feedback. If a supplement works or doesn't work, that's a clue. If a medication works or doesn't work, that's a clue. If any strategy you implement, if you change a sleep pattern or you try a different food, if it works or doesn't work, if it causes symptoms or doesn't cause symptoms, that's a clue to us physiologically. And we should pay attention to that, because we can leverage that information. So if you're a fragile patient, if you're someone that reacts to everything, quote unquote, then we have to approach your case in a different way. Many times, if you go to a doctor and you've got an issue, as doctors, we want to add to your life, right? So it's like, hey, I'm suffering from X symptom. Okay, we'll add this supplement or add this medication or add this lifestyle strategy, and let's see if it changes. For the person who's reacting to everything, addition usually results in frustration and maybe symptoms for that patient and poor outcomes. So maybe we need to switch how we're thinking clinically, and as doctors say, well, what can we subtract from this person? Because no one ever reacts to a subtraction, right? If you're eating a food that's causing a reaction, eliminating that food doesn't cause a reaction. So that's a positive by subtraction. That's addition by subtraction, right? So with the fragile patients, rather than adding supplements into our medications, we should be thinking, well, how can we subtract? Because by subtracting, we're removing triggers, right? And if we can remove triggers, the intention is that removing the triggers will reduce the activation of the immune system or the irritation of whatever is involved in the reaction, whether that's an immune reaction or a sensitivity, intolerance, lack of an enzyme, whatever it is. If we can reduce the amount of reaction, we're reducing the amount of inflammation in the body. And the closer we can get to balance, the closer we are to then trying to reintroduce things and to add things. So what strategies can we use for the fragile person from a subtraction standpoint? Well, one, we definitely want to subtract known triggers. Okay, and clinically, it's always amazes me how people come in and they know their triggers, but they're still doing them, right? So, hey, I know every time I eat bread, I get symptoms, but I still eat bread, the patient will say. And it's like, well, come on, don't do that, right? Doc, every time I do this, it hurts. Well, then don't do that, right? That's the real life manifestation of it. You have to help me help you. So if before you ever go see a doctor, if you're watching this video and you react to everything, if you're still consuming things that you react to, you have to stop consuming those things. because the gluten or the dairy or the soy or the strawberry or the asparagus or the whatever it is that you're consuming from a food perspective that is irritating you, that it is, continuing to consume that is adding more inflammation and trigger to your life, not less. We want to reduce it, so you have to cut those out. Then clinically, we can test for other triggers, and whatever shows up as a trigger for you, we want to subtract those. Okay, so subtract the irritants as best we can. The ones we know, we want to subtract those because now we're reducing the inflammatory inputs. Second, oftentimes there are things in your life that are triggering you that you're not consuming, or more specifically, you're not eating or drinking, right? We want to cut out the things you're eating or drinking that are irritating you, but then we want to look at health and beauty aids. According to the Environmental Working Group, the average female uses 12 health and beauty products per day. The average male uses 6. So looking at soaps and shampoos and toothpaste and deodorants and makeups and lotions and potions, these things oftentimes have triggering agents in them because the health and beauty aid industry is not regulated. So it's very common for lotions and makeups to have estrogens in them that are not put on the label. If they do, then you're exposing yourself to hormones that you don't know about, and maybe causing a hormonal imbalance and overloading the liver and making you more reactive to everything because the liver is overloaded. So we want to cut down on, investigate our health and beauty aid products and then cut down on the total number of them that we're using. And by doing that, we're cutting down on the potential toxic load from a day-to-day basis. Next, we want to reduce stress. I've made a video called Learn to Tame Your Tigers. And if you've worked with me, you've heard me say many times, we have to discern the tigers and then eliminate the tigers we can eliminate, tame the tigers we can't eliminate. The tiger is a metaphor for stressors. And the more stressors you have, the more stress you're under, the worse, the more stress physiology you're under. And stress physiology drives immune imbalance, drives inflammation, drives histamine type reactions, drives reactivity by the body. So if we can understand your stress load and eliminate as many tigers as possible, and then teach you to get parasympathetic or in that rest and digest phase, then we can help push back against the stressors and the physiology that makes you reactive. Part of that issue is vagal nerve function. In vagal tone, the vagus nerve, we've talked about this in previous videos as well. The vagus nerve sets downgoing peristalsis in the GI tract. Well, the downgoing peristalsis is what helps you have bowel movements. If you have decreased vagal motor outflow, you have decreased motility. That promotes constipation. Constipation promotes toxicity and inflammation, gas, bloating, SIBO, all kinds of issues. The vagus nerve is a key anti-inflammatory stimulus for the GI tract. So if we lose the vagus nerve, we're promoting inflammation, promoting reactivity, and promoting stress physiology. So there's multiple ways you can stimulate the vagus nerve. The easiest way to do it, and the way that we're all doing it every day, but maybe not enough, is by chewing. Chewing your food activates nuclei in your brainstem that are connected to the vagus nerve. So by chewing, we're stimulating vagal motor outflow. How many chews should you perform per bite? That's a good question. If you Googled it, probably the number would be above 30. So you could shoot to do 30 chews per bite of food, or rather than sit there and count, you could chew until your food is pretty much liquid. You want to liquefy your food by chewing it and then swallow from there. And if you've chewed it until it's liquid, you're chewing it enough, so that's helping with digestion, but then the act of chewing is stimulating vagal motor outflow and helping you with peristalsis, helping you with secretion of stomach acid and digestive enzymes, helping you with an anti-inflammatory stimulus to the GI tract, helping you with insulin sensitivity, doing all kinds of things for you. So if we do those things, if we add by subtracting, okay, if we remove not only triggers from food, but also health and beauty aids, if we deal with stress, and if we chew, we're well on our way to reducing reactivity, reducing total inflammation and triggers, and getting to the point where we can reintroduce and start to add by adding supplements. But before we go there, one thing I didn't mention from a stress perspective, it's 2022. We have lots of tools available to us to measure stress and measure your autonomic nervous system and the balance between stress and relaxation. And the test you want that's very beneficial to help you understand that is called heart rate variability, or HRV. And there are many apps and wearable devices out there that measure your HRV. One is a Fitbit, one is the Oura Ring, one is the Whoop. There's many apps that do it. So figure out the best tool for you to measure your HRV, and you want to have a high heart rate variability. A high HRV means your heart can adapt to stresses. Your heart rate can vary well. Okay, if you have a low HRV, it means your heart doesn't adapt, your heart rate doesn't adapt, or your autonomic nervous system isn't adapting to stressors well, and that puts you at a higher risk of everything. So health is a healthy HRV, and we can measure that in today's day and age quite easily and constantly if you want to. And so that will, if you do that for the short time, you start to realize, hey, when I feel this way, I know my HRV is usually low. When I feel this way, it's usually good. If I do these things, like stay up too late and eat poorly and not exercise, I notice my heart rate variability is lower. If I'm consistent at implementing these things, my HRV is better. So after a couple of weeks of doing that, you probably don't necessarily need to wear the device all the time, because you've got that education, that ability to discern the biofeedback and neurofeedback you're getting. So you implement those things. We've done all of that. We've removed things. We've tested our stress and got to know our autonomics that way. We are promoting vagal motor outflow. We're doing all kinds of things that are potentially making you feel better, function better, and be less reactive. And we haven't even added anything. We haven't even taken a supplement yet. So when you succeed in those areas, we can now think about adding supplements. And again, if you're one of these people, you don't want to necessarily add supplements at the even standard dose that's on the bottle. If you have a history of reacting to everything, we want to add even slower. So maybe we take that first multivitamin capsule and we open it up and pour it all out except a quarter of it. And we just take that. And we do that for a couple of days, and we say, okay, I've taken a quarter of one capsule of one multivitamin for 3 days and I'm doing okay. Let's bump it up to a half. And you can increase incrementally until you're at the dose you want there, right? And then once you're successfully taking a multivitamin, we can branch out from there. Why start with the multi? Well, the multi is the foundational vitamins and minerals that we need for physiology. So we want, and it also, contains, essentially it's made up of B vitamins, fat soluble vitamins. So your vitamins A, D, E, K, your B vitamins, and some minerals. Well, those happen to be the most likely least reactive things you can put in, least reactive substances you can put in. So we want to start there because they're most likely to be low reactivity and they're crucial for optimal physiology. So we want to give you the best outcome by adding that we can with the lowest probability of reacting. So we start there, and when we achieve the dose there that we want, we can try the next thing, like, hey, maybe we do vitamin D. Excuse me. Or maybe we try fish oil next, or, you know, on a case specific basis. But we want to start with the most likely to be benign and build up. And when we're more successful with microdosing all the way up to therapeutic dosing with benign things, we can then be more confident in, okay, maybe now we want to try this herb, or maybe we want to try this, you know, immune supplement that's got multiple things in it. So that's how you want to think if you're someone who's very reactive historically to anything you put in. Well, maybe we need to change our paradigm, and we need to add by subtracting first, rather than hoping there's, you know, the 10th form of, let's just use an example, I don't know, oregano. Rather than hoping the 10th rather than hoping the 10th form of oregano pill you try will finally be the one you don't react to, you know, that's insane, right? Insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. So rather than practicing insane medicine and just saying, oh, well, that brand wasn't good, this one will be better, and you continuing to react, let's try, okay, maybe no form is good right now. Maybe we need to step back and subtract things and calm down the system and build up the way described in this video. So I hope this helps you and helps you think about a different way to approach your case, and helps convert you from a fragile physiology to a robust physiology, and helps you achieve a life at optimal.